There is a house down in Houston, Texas, called Funimation Incorporated, and it has been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know Vic's one. Hello everyone, this is G from NYC again, and I'm back with another video. As always, I would like to welcome everybody to the channel, whether you're new or whether you've been here from the beginning. I'm happy to have you. Hope you enjoy the content, and let's move on to the content for today's video, which is the ever interesting saga of one Vic Mignogna. So to recap for those who may not be aware of this situation, in late January, voice actor Vic Mignogna was accused online via Twitter of sexual misconduct and sexual inappropriateness with fans. Consequently, after these allegations came out, he was fired from Rooster Teeth, he was fired from Funimation, and many conventions that had him scheduled at the time dropped him like a bad habit, right? Everybody just abandoned him, right? But in the ensuing months, it has come out that many of the allegations that were made against him are fake, basically, or they cannot be proven, right? These were unfounded allegations that no one proved. At least no one's sufficiently proved yet. News networks, such as Anime News Network, alleged that Vic had made fans uncomfortable with his very physically affectionate, I guess, style of interaction, I guess you could call it. He's just a very physically affectionate person. He's an Italian Christian. I know Italian Christians. They are very, very, very huggy. But regardless, so in the ensuing months, Vic Mignogna has sued Funimation. He has sued currently. There is speculation that other lawsuits will be coming. But currently he is suing Funimation. He is suing fellow voice actors and former workmates Monica Rial and Jamie Marchi, I don't know quite how you say her name, and Monica's fiance, Ron Toy. Now this situation involving Vic for the past half year now has pretty much fractured the entire anime community, right? There have been people who stand with Vic. I stand with Vic because there's been no credible evidence shown that he did anything grossly inappropriate. There have been others, and those who believe Vic is guilty of something are called Kick Vic, and they support Monica and Jamie. Many voice actors in the voice acting community, such as Sean Schemmel, who voices Goku, Christopher Sabat, who voices Vegeta, and several other characters in Dragon Ball, and several other characters across various anime. And others have Sunny Straight. If you don't know his name, you know his voice. He plays Krillin. Many within Funimation have come out in support of Monica and Jamie and have pretty much set their sights on Vic and against Vic, and they seem to firmly believe that Vic is the monster that Jamie and Monica have said he is, although no one's been able to sufficiently prove that yet. The biggest allegations against Vic is that he's been huggy with fans, which is a well-known fact about him. No one ever denied that he was physically affectionate. But they're saying that it was sexually inappropriate. There's been allegations that he's a diva and all this other stuff, which most of it is unrelated to the issue at hand, which is he guilty of sexual misconduct. And no one has come forward as of yet, right, that can sufficiently prove that Vic Mignogna did anything particularly egregious. The one constant or the one consistent complaint is that he's popular with young teen girls, and he's very physically affectionate, and he hugs a lot. That's not sexual misconduct. It might make some people uncomfortable, which is something that Vic has acknowledged, and he's apologized for that. But that's not sexual. But anyway, at least not sexual in and of itself. But anyhow, many channels such as Verkada Law and Yellow Flash and Senpai's Home and Super Saiyan Paul and what is it, S-Gami or something like that. Many anime channels, a few gaming channels or Comicsgate associated channels have been following this. That Umbrella guy has been following this. So they have the much more detailed stuff. I'm just sort of giving a summary of my thoughts about this situation and what's happening currently. So what's happening currently is that the lawsuits are underway. Most currently, as of July 1st, Funimation, which is an anime dubbing company in Houston, Texas, that Vic has worked for, I should say, for over 15 years, they have filed a motion to dismiss with the court. Right, so basically what they're trying to do, the document itself is 168 pages. I will leave a link in the description. I cannot reasonably cover a document that is 168 pages. But they basically make this very long argument, and they say that because of several things that this case basically should be dismissed. A motion to dismiss is basically an appeal saying, because of A, B, C, D, E, F, and everything else, the plaintiff, who is Vic in this case, has no case, and it should be dismissed. Right? To my knowledge, the motion has not been decided upon yet by the judge, and having looked through it, I highly doubt that it will be dismissed, because they make some very weak arguments in my estimation. Now, there were a few points in particular that stood out to me, and I'm going to discuss those points. Now, I want to give you all a small summary of my background and how my background, my professional background, influences and flavors and informs the way I see this situation at hand. I have worked in a college. I've worked in colleges, actually. But I have worked across 2 colleges over what is almost 10 years now in the compliance office, right? And in the compliance office, one of the major things that the supervisor, my boss, does is that they will investigate claims, allegations of misconduct, of violations of the university system's non-discrimination policy and sexual misconduct policy. Keep in mind, those are umbrella terms, and the actual misconduct, right, can range and be a number of things. For example, sexual misconduct can be anything, technically can be anything from actual sexual assault to giving somebody elevator eyes, for example, right? But I have participated in investigations, usually as an observer, usually as a witness to the proceedings, taking interviews. So I've heard a lot of statements made by people, made by the accused, the accuser, other people that may have information, witnesses, so on and so forth. Also, in my line of work, if somebody makes an allegation, they have to provide evidence, if any such evidence exists. And evidence can be statements from other people, it can be recordings, it can be text, it can be Facebook, Twitter, right? Anything you can provide. So I have a good wealth of professional experience with the investigation process and
with how it works. And I want to be clear, I do not conduct the investigations. My supervisor does. I serve in mainly a supportive role that my supervisor sets. But, again, even in a supportive role, I have, again, seen evidence submitted. I've seen people give their version of events. I've seen people tell the truth, and I've seen people flat out lie. I also, in my most current role when it comes to this, is that I read through the final report that my supervisor makes, which then goes to her boss, who will then decide what sort of action needs to be taken depending on my supervisor's findings and the circumstances therein. So I am quite familiar with the investigation process. Now, while of course an investigation process for a university or college is going to be different than for a private company, still, I do have some experience, and I do think there are some similarities and generalities, and there's a lot of stuff missing that makes me concerned when it comes to Funimation's investigation. Also, I was a paralegal major a few years ago. While I did not finish the major, I still read a lot of books on the law and on paralegal studies and things of that nature. And 3 of my 4 supervisors over the course of my career have been attorneys. Now, in the office where we work, their function is not as the school's lawyer. But again, they have long resumes and histories as attorneys, right? For example, my current supervisor is a former ADA. My supervisor before her is a long-time employment attorney. My boss before that boss was a defense attorney. So again, that's 3 attorneys, nearly 10 years of experience. I have a strong, while I would not call myself a legal expert by any means, again, I don't have a legal degree, right? I do have a good chunk of real life practical knowledge and experience. So I would say that I'm a bit, at the very least, informed about how these processes should work, generally speaking. I just want to go through that just so you all have an understanding of what informs my viewpoint on these things. It's my practical work experience, a little bit of my higher education, although I have majored in many things in life. So there we go. So the few things that I wanted to address in this document, which again is the Funimation's motion to dismiss the lawsuit against them by the plaintiff, who is Vic Mignogna. One of the things you'll see if you decide to go through the document is that Funimation keeps asserting that the other co-defendants in the lawsuit, Monica Rial, Jamie Marchi, Ron Toye, I don't know how you say his name, are not employees of the company. That Jamie and Monica are independent contractors. Ron's not even that. And that as such, they have no say. This is basically the argument that they're making. That they have no say over what these persons do or say on their social media accounts, and that they should not be held liable. Here's the issue that I have with Funimation's with Funimation's argument with that one. While they are technically correct that Monica and Jamie and Ron are not employees of Funimation, Monica and Jamie, right, are independent contractors. That is acknowledged. Their most well-known work is with Funimation. I looked up Monica. Monica started working with Funimation in 2004, and she has received steady work and steady employment. Sorry for the city noise, guys. With them since then. Her most famous roles, such as Bulma in Dragon Ball, Mei Chan in Full Metal Alchemist. She currently voices a character now in My Hero Academia. Again, all works that Funimation dubbed and released under their name, right? While she may not be an employee of the company, I would argue that she's certainly a representative of the company. The company also asserts in their motion that Ron and Jamie, right, don't have any authority with the company, that they can't and don't speak in the company's name. And again, the issue I have with this is that no one said that they had any sort of power or authority within Funimation, or that they spoke, as I was saying, or that they spoke on Funimation's behalf. I cannot recall any tweet that Ron or Jamie or Monica ever made where they stated, I, as a agent or employee or representative of Funimation, say this or do that. No one, to my knowledge, ever claimed that. However, right, they, again, while not employees, they do work for Funimation. They are best associated with Funimation's work. If you look at Monica's Twitter, for example, that's another thing. They claim that Funimation claims that they have no say over how these three use their own personal Twitter accounts. Take a look at Monica's Twitter account. She does not use it in a personal function. She uses it, in my estimation, as a business account. In her bio, you'll see a little blurb that says, for convention appearances, contact, and then there's an email. If you look through her most recent tweets, with the exception of a tweet about a friend of hers being ill, every tweet is related to the convention scene. Right? She is not attending these conventions as a fan. She's attending these conventions as a panelist, as a featured guest. She's being paid for these. In my estimation, she is indeed using this account as a business account. Perhaps it's as a business account that doubles as a personal account, as many people do these days. They sort of use the account and they blend the two in. But it does not change the fact that she does use the account to promote Funimation's products. Right? In fact, she even mentions, there's one tweet where she mentions Hulu users, and then she goes on a little spiel there. Right? It can be argued, I say, that Monica is using her Twitter account as a business account. She's not using it, from what I could tell, as a personal account. But anyway, getting back to the point. Right, Funimation keeps asserting that they have no say, that they have no control over what they do, and that they're not responsible anyway because they're not employees. While they are not employees, they do work for the company. They do dubbing work. Their behavior, right, reflects either poorly or negatively on Funimation. There are people, and I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen it online, who have dropped Funimation, who have stopped following Funimation's Twitter and their Facebook, who have stopped watching their animes because of what these people have done. Again, their most famous works come from Funny. Monica is best known as the voice of Bulma. Bulma comes from the Dragon Ball franchise, I should say. That franchise is most famously dubbed by Funimation. It's one of their most famous works. Their behavior reflects on Funny because they are associated with Funimation. So if I were the judge, I would disregard their claim that they're not responsible for their behavior. Right? This is like telling, a parent, in my opinion, this is like telling a parent, right, that they are not responsible for the behavior, right, of their
of their child, right? People don't do that. Generally speaking, people do not absolve a parent because of the child's behavior. A parent can't say, well, you know what, the kid's his own person, right? Kid's his own man or her own woman. I have no say in this. No. People judge your parents by how you behave, right? If you are a criminal, you bring shame upon your family. If you do well, you bring honor upon your family. This is a well understood concept, and I think it applies very similarly here. Their conduct, their online behavior is affecting the parent company that they work for, which is Funimation. So I disagree with, and if I was the judge, I would disregard their defense of, we're not responsible for what they say because they're not employees or agents. That to me is semantics, and I would throw it right out. So there's that. The second one, which is the biggest one to me, is that the investigator, so it's explained in the affidavit that when these allegations against Vic came up via Twitter, right, some person named with the Twitter handle of Leia or whatever tweeted Funimation with a link to all these allegations against him that were made online, right? No one came to them formally. To my knowledge, no one submitted any evidence. Never once, from what I could tell. Maybe I missed something, but from what I could read and what I could see, never once did anybody submit a credible shred of evidence that Vic had done anything wrong. But anyway, so this person tweets Funimation about the sexual misconduct allegations against Vic over various cons. Keep in mind, there is footage of Vic at conventions going back well over 10 years. There's video, there's articles, so it's easy to see how Vic interacts with fans. But anyhow, a few more of these tweets come in. A person at Funny says, you know, we need to do something, we need to look into this, how do we do it? This person takes it to the HR manager at Funimation. Funimation then contacts Sony. Sony has an investigator look into things. According to the investigator, I believe her name is Denbo. I think it's Miss Denbo. D-N-B-O-W. According to her, in her sworn affidavit, which is part of the exhibits in the document, she says that she interviewed by phone Monica Rial, Vic, 2 witnesses, and 2 fans who had made allegations against Vic at a convention. Vic himself. Telephone interviews over a course of 3 days. I call so much BS on this, it's not funny. First of all, 3 days. She makes no mention of talking to other people. She makes no mention of gathering evidence, right, or even requesting evidence. She even states that the only evidence or the only information she was given was by Funimation, and Funimation provided her the information about the 2 convention fans and Vic and Monica. So there's nothing that she says that, from what I could tell, states that she investigated any further beyond what Funimation provided to her. There's also nothing stated that she requested any sort of proof or any evidence to either prove or disprove what was being alleged against Vic. She even closes out her affidavit that by saying after the interviews, after she conducted these interviews over a course of 3 days, these telephone interviews over a course of 3 days, that she found Vic guilty, and then that shortly afterward Vic was notified via phone call that that the investigation found that he was guilty and he would be terminated effective immediately. That was in I believe, mid to late January. I find it very concerning that the investigator, she speaks in many, many generalities, and it's one of those things where I'm concerned about what's not said, then I'm concerned about what is said. Again, she makes no mention of evidence. She doesn't say, well, Monica presented this, or person A presented that, or person B, said this, but then I looked into it and found that it wasn't true, or it didn't quite happen that way. Nothing of that sort. Just several phone interviews conducted over a 3-day period, and she apparently now has enough information to find Vic guilty. She makes no other mention of any other sort of investigative technique. No in-person interviews, no emails, no nothing. That concerns me. And second of all, this investigation seemed to have been done very quickly. I can tell you that in my experience, even a case that is considered to be easy still takes a good at least month or two to actually get done, because in my experience, what my supervisor has to do is interview the accuser, interview the accused, find out if either side has any evidence of what they claim to be true or not true. If they have anybody who can serve as a witness, or who has any information on the situation at hand, right? In my experience, it's a lot of follow-up, because you email people, or you call, and their numbers aren't working, or they're not responding, or they're out of the country, or their phone is dead, right? A lot of it is just telephone tag. So that she was able to conduct this investigation within a few days, within about a week, is very concerning to me. And again, the fact that she says, based on her interviews, not again on the evidence that was provided her, but on her interviews, she deems Vic guilty. So I hope that at some point, maybe during deposition or whatnot, the actual investigation will become available, because I would love to see that, because I have the distinct feeling that it is not as thorough as it should be. Another thing that I find interesting is that among the people that Ms. Denbo says she contacted were 2 anime fans that claimed Vic was sexually inappropriate with them during a convention. Why would these 2 girls contact Funimation, the dubbing company, for what Vic apparently did to them at a convention? Would it not make more sense to contact the head of the convention, or the security person or security personnel at the convention? What reasonably can Funimation do about Vic's conduct at a convention? How did Funimation even get these girls' contact information? Because again, Ms. Denbo says she called them. Funimation, to my knowledge, does not maintain the phone numbers of convention fans. They don't run conventions. And conventions, to my knowledge, don't maintain the telephone numbers of every attending fan. So, how did Funimation get this information? How did these 2 girls, who are again anime fans, not employees, not in the industry, fans that interacted with Vic at a convention? A convention has nothing to do with Funimation. How did Funny get their contact info? How did Funny come to know about their supposed interaction with Vic? I want to know. I want to know that because it's very, very, very fishy to me. I can smell it all the way over here in New York City, and they're down in Houston. Something stinks. Something stinks a lot. So, there's that. Those are the two main things that I wanted to discuss. Right? I think that now I'm not going to say what the judge will or won't do. But I do think that, I think it's more likely than not, I should say, that this motion to dismiss will be denied. Because from what I read, Funimation has not made a strong enough case to justify it being dismissed. The funny thing is that in their own motion, right, they say that Vic can't prove, for example, that Funimation ruined his image, and that Funimation, is engaging in tortious interference, and all this other stuff. They state over and over and over that Vic can't prove this standard, he can't meet that standard, he can't do this, he can't do that. Yet, from what I saw, I don't see where they could meet their own standard. I don't see where they could, or rather, on what grounds, I should say, they should have this case dismissed. Just because you want it dismissed doesn't mean that it will be or that it should be. And from what I saw, I don't think that they made a good case for dismissal. In my estimation, trying to disavow any responsibility, that's the term, trying to disavow any responsibility regarding the actions and the statements made by your independent contractors. They acknowledge that Vic was an independent contractor, that Monica's an independent contractor, that Jamie's an independent contractor. So they're still associated with you in some fashion. So I don't think it helps them to argue basically that, oh, we are not responsible for the online behavior of these people who work for us, who dub our shows, and who we pay. They're independent contractors, right? They're not employees, they're not agents, so we're totes not responsible. We just give them work, let them, be open about the fact that they work for us. Right? People come to see them because they work for us, and we pay them, but we're totes not responsible. On that alone, if I were the judge, I would dismiss the motion to appeal. So I think that Funny's actually probably dug themselves quite a hole with this, especially when you'll see in their exhibits that they provide a lot of Facebook posts from Vic and from other people, and they also cite Anime News Network numerous times. Keep in mind, Anime News Network has been proven to be flat out lying about Vic and about the alleged interactions. Most famously, when this all broke in late January, early February, they came out with an article, basically trying to paint Vic as a creeper. And they had they had several pictures, I should say, of Vic hugging girls, and their faces are blurred out. And there's one in particular, and that article and the girl's response is in the exhibits that Funimation submitted. Right, so Anime News Network, damn city noises. Anyway, Anime News Network takes a girl's photo. They took several photos, but in particular, they take a girl's photo, they blur her face out, and they claim that Vic again was sort of pushing up on this girl. The girl, her name is Casey Hardwood, I believe, and her response to all this is in the exhibits because she responded online. She came out after the Anime News Network article came out, and she said that she didn't give Anime News Network permission to use her picture. They didn't talk to her about her experiences with Vic. And she says that the picture that they used was actually from an event from 2012 when she was a teenager, and that it was basically a meetup of the Risen Bull Rangers, that's Vic's fan group, and that her mother was there. Her mother was there, and nothing indecent happened. When this all started, Anime News Network put out article after article after article after article trying to bury Vic, and they got caught in lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. Another thing is that a former Funimation employee, who is not named here, but she was talked about a little bit earlier, so she could be the mysterious former Funny employee that is not mentioned by name by Miss Denbo, but I believe her name is Samantha Inouye Hart. Samantha Inouye Hart, who did work for Funimation at one time, came out a few months ago claiming that she had been swatted by people who are pro-Vic, who are I stand with Vic. It was quickly discovered that she was lying, that she was using photos of another event where her door had been kicked in, and she was using that. And the reason I bring that up is because she specifically called out Vic and basically said, you know, tell your attack dogs to stand down and leave me alone. Again, I'm paraphrasing, right? But she also claimed that she used to work for a Funny and that Vic, you know, had, you know, been inappropriate. Yet she got caught in a lie. Not even 5 hours after she lied. So if she would lie about this, right? If she's the person that is the former Funimation employee, if she would lie about this, why wouldn't she lie about Vic or anything else? The only things that have been confirmed is that Vic is very physically affectionate and very huggy, and he's admitted that perhaps he got lax in expecting everybody to want to hug, and that perhaps he unknowingly made everybody uncomfortable, made some people, I should say, uncomfortable, and for that he apologized. Even the pictures in the Anime News Network articles show that his hugs were not sexual. There was nothing sexual about his hugs on these young girls. He's not being inappropriate outside of possibly making the girls uncomfortable. There is plenty of footage online of girls jumping him, glomping him. I've seen a lot of teen girls, you know, try to touch his chest and grab certain parts of his body that are not his arms. Let's just put it that way, right? I've seen a lot of them be a lot more sexually forceful and provocative with him than I've ever seen him with them. I've seen a lot of daring girls, but I've never seen Vic touch them inappropriately, right? So there's all that. Now, Monica told a story, and eventually came out during, I think, deposition or something, where apparently a decade ago, she and Vic were eating jelly beans. Vic asked for a jelly bean. She writes her name on it. He pops it into his mouth and says, "Hey, I ate Monica." Apparently this is again, this is something that happened 10 years ago, so she sat on it for a decade. But apparently this, you know, was one step too far. Vic making a dad joke that is not inherently sexual. He said, "I ate Monica," referencing the jelly bean that Monica had written her own name on. He didn't say, "I ate out Monica." He didn't even say anything like, "Look at me, I'm flicking the bean," right? Those would be considered sexual because of the connotation and the association of those terms. He didn't say that. By Monica's own words, what Vic said was, "I ate Monica." That's it. And yet this, to her, is an example of Vic's sexual harassment. Keep in mind, online, she and Jamie Marchi were alleging that Vic, was pulling their heads back and he was whispering in their ears. They were basically painting him like Judge Frollo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame when he corners Esmeralda and he puts his hand on her throat and all that stuff. They were accusing him of being a creeper, and the only proof thus far that they have is that he made a corny joke a decade ago that, in my estimation, is not inherently sexual. So I don't see how a judge would agree with Funny in this and grant the motion. I'm not going to say that they will or they won't. I don't know. All I can say is that based on a preponderance of the evidence, if I were the judge, I'm not granting that motion. To me, Funimation has not made a strong enough argument to warrant dismissing Vic's lawsuit against them. But I'm just one person, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm just one person with an opinion. So anyway, please let me know your opinions in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.